Okay, so for pen illustration today, some of you remember the pen and inks class that we had done, and there might be some overlaps, some might be slightly different. What I'm aiming with today's session is to open your minds to illustrating with just a regular pen, one of these Diwali mein free mein aate na pen, those kinds. So nothing fancy, nothing that you have to run to a specialty store to pick up. It just can be a regular ballpoint pen, and you can still do a lot of stuff with it. 1 second, I think my picture is frozen. Let me just check.
It's fine for me. I can see both you and the pen illustration.
I think it's okay. It's okay.
Oh, looks like it's just me though. Okay.
Even I can see.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just give me a second. I think too many of my apps are open. That's my machine down. Okay. Oh, more people are coming in. Okay, so I'm just using my regular, literally free May Iowa pen, but I have some other pens also because there's no guarantee whether or not these pens are going to last the session. I did one illustration for yesterday's session, and I think that pen is going to slowly start giving up on me, this is the nature of those pens. There is no predicting what is going to happen, and that is part of the fun. If we are always going to rely on tools that are high quality, it kind of limits the kind of art that you will do, and also then it the fear still doesn't go away. The fear that unless you have the right tools, you get something right or wrong, that fear still remains. So I want to just bring it down to imagining yourselves as people with the confidence of a 2-year-old, but with the life experience of whatever age you want to admit to, and use that to create today's artworks. So I'm preparing more formal notes about what all I'm going to cover today, and I'll share these notes with you a little later because they're a little incomplete. Across the 4 classes that I've had in this, a lot of the material has changed. So I will share these later, but essentially I want to just help recognize what pen illustration can be all about. Now, first and foremost, let's understand what a pen can do for us. We are used to drawing very small illustrations with pen, and that is usually just letters, which again, like in pencil, the letters do not go beyond a centimeter tall. So the pen is normally used for small defined shapes. And usually these shapes, when you're making letters, are pretty much the same. They're vertical lines, horizontal lines, lines at an angle, and different types of ovals or parts of ovals or circles. So there's hardly too many variations that you land up using the pen for. But in illustration, we are going to change some of that. But you'll notice that we don't deviate too much from drawing shapes. It's just shapes that we land up drawing. So all we need to do is be comfortable with changing the size of the shapes and also making unfamiliar shapes. Now this brings us to the nature of pen lines. Each tool that we have explored has got an innate nature, and if we try to do anything that its nature does not allow, we are not going to succeed. So pen unfortunately has the least variable nature, so it can be either a fortunate thing or an unfortunate thing. Everything about the nature of pen is uniformity. It is designed to create shapes in a certain amount of uniformity. We have uniformity of thickness of line, darkness of line, and color. Even in pencil sketching, we can vary the thickness and darkness, but in pen, we have to assume that most pens are going to give us uniform thickness and darkness. And this is its innate quality because this is exactly what we need if we want to write pages and pages text, which need to all be clearly visible. If I were to write text where part of it is not visible, it makes no sense. So we need the uniformity over there. But this is a quality that we rely on when we are drawing with pencil. And of course, color is something that we rely on, the variability of color when we are doing with artworks with watercolor. Now, the only thing, or let's say three things that we have working for us to create art with pen, we can play with most importantly, it's the tonal value. Tonal value is whether it's light or dark, that is tonal value. And in extension to tonal value is playing with contrast and texture. They're not three separate points as much as various facets of one same point. So we can create tonal value by playing with the contrast and also playing with different types of textures. So we'll do this one exercise in creating tonal value with one particular texture. I'm going to go through some of the textures. The textures have been done in a previous class, but for people who've joined afterwards, I don't want you to be completely left in the lurch. Last week, we made these cubes and cylinders. I want you to just repeat those again. Make one cube and one cylinder. And here I just want to demonstrate what tonal value would mean. So one of these faces, I want you to just draw lines at an comfortable angle. You can make them straight or sideways, whichever you like, from one end to the other, so that one face of the cube is fully covered with lines which are uniformly distributed. They need to be parallel and they need to be equidistant. Now we'll repeat the same, but we'll do it twice on the surface that's pointing towards the top. And this time round, I am also going to make lines across the first set of lines. So I've got two sets of lines that go across each other. And this will create a darker area. So this is a demonstration of tonal value. You have light, medium, and dark tones. And the light tone here is just the tone of paper. But if you were to distribute these lines even further, then they would make for a lighter pen tone. Now for the cylinder, we are going to make the same number of lines, same kind of lines, but we're going to make them vertical. But we are not going to keep them equidistant. They would still be parallel, but the distance will change. So progressively increasing or decreasing distance between the lines. I'm going to start from one side where the lines are so close to each other, they almost look like they're blending. And about after 3 or 4 lines, I'm going to steadily start increasing the distance between the lines till I come just close to the center. I'm going to stop, go a little further to the other side of the center and continue the same lines. But at this time, I'm going to start reducing very gradually till I come to the end where they will almost overlap and give me an interesting circular tonal variation. So it's just playing with lines. Remember, the lines are always going to be the same amount of thickness, the same amount of darkness. So we really can't play too much with that. We at least have to assume so. There will, of course, be one of those pens which is most unpredictable. And when you want to make a dark line, it won't, like in the case over here, some ink does not deposit, that will happen. But that is an anomaly. That is not something that you need to depend on. Most pens will give you uniform line. So you have to assume that this is all we're going to be able to do with this.
The board is shaking too much, Aditi. We are not able to see clearly.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Shall I hold it a little closer?
Okay.
Is this better?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay. I'll pull down the camera to a little closer. See it clearly. Unfortunately, I can't do much about the shake right now, but at least you'll see it a little clearer.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. Okay, now while you were making these lines, were you comfortably able to make parallel lines? Were you able to stop where you were supposed to stop, or did you overshoot? And when you were making these lines, did you make them confidently, or were you a little unsure and then you did lines one way and then the other way? This is all.
Confidently, but oh, sorry, I thought you were asking a question.
I am. Please answer if you can.
Confidently, but when I reach the edge for some strange reason, I always feel like I went over it. Always with any drawing.
Okay, yeah, so this is important because this is what I wanted to explain further. This is not very difficult to understand that this is what we have to work with, but what we have to work on are these two factors. One is the control over the line, and the other is quality of line. And I'll just explain what the difference is. Control is that you can predict the line. So you know that when you start from one side that it's going to go exactly where you want it to go. And quality is the confidence with which you draw the line. Let me demonstrate the difference between the two. Now, if I draw a small square and I decide that I want to fill this up, being able to draw lines from one end to the other with maybe just enough distance so that they are equal, this is control over the line. Where you don't have control is, I'll probably do this with my left hand. Let's see, my left hand doesn't do much. So I want it to go straight, but because my hand is not practiced, it does not go straight. I can control where it starts mostly, but I can't control how it gets to wherever it gets. Now, the quality of line, the difference between control and quality is, suppose I have to draw the square itself. There are times I have seen some people when they're asked to draw a square, this is how they would try drawing a square. I have done this as well, so I know where this comes from. You're just not sure whether your line is going to be, you are in control of the line or the pen is in control of the line. Converse to this, if I were to draw a square like that, and even if my lines are not absolutely straight, there is a certain confident quality to the line. This is what we want to achieve. So we want good control and we want good quality, because the difference between a good pen illustration and an illustration that is still getting there is predictability and confidence. So I'm just going to give you a few exercises that you can do, and it's actually a very simple set of exercises that you can develop for yourself also. All it entails is for you to be able to draw more or larger than you are normally used to. So first of all, let's start with geometric shapes. And this is all to help you with control. This set of exercises is going to help you with building control over your line. Like I said earlier, we use geometric shapes in lettering. So let's start with simple geometric shapes. Try and draw a square with a confident line. Now in this square, try to draw a line from one corner to the other corner. If you need to move the book around, that's okay. But if you can keep it in just one angle, we'll get a little bit of pencil yoga done during this exercise also. Then try drawing a circle, and you can draw it anyhow you want to, whether it's in one motion from top, bottom to top, or from two sides, that's up to you. Then try drawing a triangle one way, a triangle the other way. And in all of this, we are trying to see whether these shapes are uniform, whether they go from one end to the other end. And you can get this fairly easily, fairly quickly. So even here now, I notice that my circle is not touching the left side. I can try this another time. And this time round, maybe I can try drawing a circle first, and then I can try drawing a square around it. You can take this exercise from any side and create these shapes, or even more shapes if you want to. The purpose is that you draw slightly long span lines. Now, long span lines are lines where you will be required to move your hand a little bit. And they are just slightly longer than the normal shapes that we make, which are alphabet shapes. So this is about, from here onwards, everything is long span lines. Anything bigger than about an inch or so. So this is one exercise. You can add any number of shapes if you want in this, and you can develop your own. You can even increase this in size and make your own shapes or exercises. Then another way of exercising control is to make, I'm going to make a shape over here, a slightly larger circle. This is about 3 or 4 inches big. Again, just make a circle-ish shape. If it turns out to be a perfect circle, then great. If it doesn't, then we'll work with whatever shape you make. But try to not make a less than confident line. Now make a line from 12 o'clock to 6 o'clock, 9 to 3 o'clock. One part of this exercise is also going to train your eyes to estimate where is 12 o'clock, where is 6 o'clock, and draw these lines. Now, in the remaining part, divide these arcs into 2 more parts by marking the 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock position and the 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock position. And try joining these with lines that go through the center, 1 o'clock to 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock to 2 o'clock, and likewise on the remaining circle as well. Now, this is the basic start of a mandala design. And any kind of mandala design really works wonders to develop control over your line. And as an extension, your line quality starts becoming more and more confident also. But I'm not going to make a regular mandala on this. I'm just going to give you an exercise for control of line, where at the 11 o'clock position and 11 o'clock line and 1 o'clock line, I'm going to draw a dot that's slightly inward and join this to the 12 o'clock position. And in these two sections, I'm now going to draw lines which are parallel to the first line that we've made. So control the distance that you're drawing. This will require you to assess spaces with your eyes. This has nothing to do with the quality of your line. But then when you are drawing the line, there you have to maintain the distance between the previous line and the current line, and then all the future lines as well. That is where your line control will be developed. Now again, the best way to do this is to relax, exhale, don't hold your breath, and only address one line at a time. So only think about the previous line and the current line, the previous line and the current line. If in making these textures, some places if your line has differed, just make an observation, that's all. We'll do the same thing on the other side. Now, because of the nature of this angle, my lines on the other side are going to be a little closer. I have to just maintain them as parallel, oops, there I go, to the previous line. It seems like a simple enough activity, but I can't tell you how beneficial this activity is to develop absolute control over where your line is going. Now at the 3 o'clock position, I'm just going to turn my book sideways. From 3 to 2, again mark a spot on the 2 o'clock line and on the 4 o'clock line. And here we're going to draw a curved line. So we're increasing the level of difficulty for ourselves. And here again, try to make parallel lines. And each time you are making these different kinds of lines, there'll be a different technique you will be using. Your hand will be using a different technique. Your eye will be using a different technique. Something weird has gone and happened over here. But this is, in making parallel lines, my lines have come inside. But if that was their destiny, I guess that was their destiny. There was a time when I would spend hours and hours doing only textural art. This was in 2009. And I didn't realize while doing it how much my line quality changed dramatically. Because of maybe 6-8 months of only doing textural art like Zentangles or Doodles, that's when I started my company actually. So I hadn't realized till then that my line was not as confident as I thought, or that it could get more confident. Now from the 6 o'clock position to the 5 o'clock position, we are going to draw a compound curve. Now this is another kind of line also. And this requires a different kind of sensibility to complete. And in this also, you start developing better and better control. So while our basic grid is like that of mandala, and in a sense, we are doing some kind of mandala art, it's slightly different in that I'm giving you a task of varying difficulty. First, we did straight lines, and then we are making slightly longer lines, going to shorter lines, then a curved line, and now a compound curve. When you're making these parallel lines also, you will develop your own way of making them. Some people look at the line that they're drawing, keeping focus somehow on in the peripheral vision of the previous line. Otherwise, how are you going to be able to draw the line? I have sometimes just looked at the previous line and drawn the current line. I don't know what my lines are doing. I'm just trying to draw parallel lines and they're just becoming something completely different. My compound curve has gone and become a curve. So obviously my somewhere my parallel lines were not working, or this is again the mechanics of curved lines. They can do weird things. Now I'm going to leave it at that because these are basically the three different types of lines, and the remaining you can fill up with whatever shapes you want to. You can make a wiggly shape if you want to, or you can make a more geometric shape and fill this up. But essentially, making equidistant or parallel lines is one way of developing control. Now, the next thing, like I was saying, that you can do is just make simple doodles or doodle textures. And I've done this before, but I'd like to do this one more time. Start with making things, something like these triangles, which are, try and make them equilateral and equal throughout. That is again part of control. Are you able to see distances properly, and are you able to make those distances properly? Now, these are not long span lines. These are reasonably short lines. But if we make an exercise like these parallel lines again, here also you will be able to develop your skills. So it's a matter of varying your exercises. There's at least 25 different types of textures you can make just by using these triangular shapes. So I'll leave that to you to fill up. Small equidistant lines. And here's the large equidistant or variable equidistant lines. Okay, now moving from this to other kinds of textures and shapes. These are just basic geometry that we are relying on, but we can take this a step further to develop control also. And that is by making textures of objects, for example. I'm going to show you three different textures of objects, and you'll see how practicing these textures can also develop your line control. So the first one that we're going to do is a brick texture, where you will draw rounded edged rectangles like these. Drawing these itself can give you a good exercise. We are making just about 3 or 4, not too many, because I just want to demonstrate the texture. But you can consider making a whole page or so of this, because this brick texture looks really pretty. And with the intention of keeping it organic, try to not have the shapes absolutely equal or ending in one place right below the other. Keep the lines a little less than straight. Now in this, we are going to do 3 different kinds of textures, just again using lines. One is just make vertical lines. from end to end. We want to leave the gap between the bricks untouched. So make this texture as slowly as you need to so that your line touches the top and the bottom of the brick. Again, it's regular equidistant lines. Now in the next one, we're going to change this up a little bit. I'm making the lines at an angle, but I'm also keeping them slightly apart. And on this, I'm going to overlay a second set of lines like we also did in pencil sketching, which are going to be straight, but they're not going all over. They are just going to cover a small triangle shape, a flat isosceles triangle towards the left side. And this is going to create that tonal interest that we want in our illustration. The next one you can do is, again, horizontal lines. And just on the left-hand side, slightly more denser lines, but just on the left. Again, two sets of horizontal lines. One is longer and one is shorter. Then like the vertical lines, we can just make horizontal lines uniform throughout. So here there's a variation. And on the last one, you can try making lines which are not too straight. They are slightly curved, just very slightly and very dense. There's a couple of more textures which I'll come back to. Now, if you're comfortable making these lines, the next one we're going to do will be a basket weave. So for this, we're just going to make a set of horizontal and vertical lines. And we can start with just maybe 4 horizontal equidistant lines, starting and stopping at the same place. And then at one end, you start making 4 vertical lines. And you repeat this, maintaining the lengths of the respective lines. Do it as fast or as slow as you need to make a nice uniform pattern. Now for the bottom, I realized that I have to change this a little bit because my horizontal lines occupy a longer span. But I'm going to maintain the distance between the lines. That is more important than the number of lines. Because if the distance remains the same, it will create the illusion of just that one tone. If in order to make 4 lines, I reduce or increase the distance here, suddenly this part of the basket is going to look very light. So in this case, The lines remaining equidistant is more important than the number of lines. Now, these are things that will just come to you very intuitively. You won't need me, or you don't have to refer to a book to tell you that you need to make fewer lines in some place, or you need to make more lines to create lightness or darkness. But I remember I used to struggle with what I need to do, what I need to stay faithful to, you might say. Is it the number of lines? Will that make a difference? Or is it the density of the lines? And over time, I realized that in order to maintain tonal integrity, it's the density of the lines that's more important.
So in some places between, the corner between um, this
Ma'am,
line,
is my looking,
line.
sorry, Shivani. Yeah, carry on.
I feel like there's a slight gap. So should I put some lines in like really small ones just to fill it in?
Can I have a look at it?
It's not very clear, I think, because it's so small.
Okay, let's.
But if you see this right here, right, there's like, it looks like there's a gap in this line and
One.
this line at this corner.
Yes, so those you need to complete those lines.
Okay.
It's a horizontal line that just needs to complete and go and touch. That's the only thing that's not happening.
Okay.
So it's exact qualities that it starts from where you want it to and it ends where you want it to. That is the control that you need to automatically develop.
Ma'am, for mine also, see, is it looking
Okay.
like a weave?
Let me see.
Yeah.
It is looking like a weave.
Oh.
The picture is a little blurred, but
Mhm.
what I'm thinking is that some places the lines are they not touching the either the horizontal or the vertical. Same problem that Shivani had. One or two
Okay.
places. So if there are gaps, then that makes it look a little like there's a hole in the basket.
Okay. I
So
mean, the
if you
gap
want to
between the lines should be equal, like in all the lines.
correct, yes. So the only reason why this basket weave looks like a nice tight new basket is because it can I can almost trace the this part of the basket. This line almost continuously goes from here, goes underneath the vertical lines and then goes through. That's
Okay.
because I'm able to control where I start the line and where I end it. And it's also touching the line. So it creates the illusion of going under something. You
Mhm.
know?
Right. Yours has come out so well, ma'am. So
Who
lovely.
is this?
Isn't it? I love this pattern.
This
I
is
sit
so
and do
pretty.
meditation. It looks beautiful.
Yeah,
And
very
this,
nice.
we aren't doing this right now, but if you want to really make a 3D illustration out of it, all you need to do is just a little bit of pencil along the edges of where it touches,
Mm-hmm.
and it starts suddenly looking like a real basket. It's just so beautiful.
Very
I've
nice.
always loved this.
Very pretty.
I have a very steady hand,
Very
Aditi.
uniform.
Yeah.
How is
I but I'm telling you, this was because of the 6-8 months of sitting and doing these textured doodles that it's made such a big
But it actually looks like as if you're weaving the basket.
difference.
how is this, Aditi?
Okay, so um, another lovely texture that I like to make. Now I have little space over here. I'm just going to quickly make a small texture, maybe along the side, but you guys can make it in a squarish shape if you want to, and that is a brick texture. So I am, sorry, stone texture, not brick. Where you make these weird shapes, I'm going to make them such that they are all straight along the right edge. But what I want to show you is the shapes that you make in between. They're like weird shapes, which when you come close to a previous stone, you try and leave a uniform gap and place it over there, like your stonemason yourself. This is also a very nice meditative exercise. How are you going to, it's almost like one of those games that we play, like Tetris. How are you going to now fill in the next piece? What is it going to look like? And I've found that when I make landscapes or something, there are some places where you have an empty space and you don't know what to do. Maybe there's an old broken down wall or something, or a piece of a wall along a door. I will randomly just put this stone texture over there and it looks really nice. So we are maintaining the distance between the rocks, and we are deliberately making the rocks in very odd shapes. And as far as possible, try and keep them in different sizes. If you have any stonemasonry houses nearby, whenever things are better and you can go and look at them, try and see how the texture looks in person. Because that, a little bit of a study of that can help you make these shapes a lot better. Are you getting it? It might be a little tricky in the beginning, but as you proceed, it'll start coming easier and easier. Now, for the texture of these rocks, you can actually just make lines in any one direction on just part of the rock, touching just one side of the rock like that. I'll just hold it closer. As you can see, my pen is giving way, so I'm getting a dark and light line. I'm going to try and keep it uniform though. I'm only making short lines on maybe half of the rock so that it starts looking a little three-dimensional automatically. It'll almost seem as if there's a light source from this side, and the left bottom side, all the rocks are projecting a shadow. Now, all these exercises are meant for you to focus on arriving at a good control of your pen strokes. But you will in time notice that you're also getting very good line quality, that there is a certain amount of confidence with which you are able to draw. Now, part of that line quality confidence, like I said, is in the head. So you have to bring out the confident 2-year-old in you. And the rest of it, all other judgments must be by the older person that you are.
So Aditi, I face a rather odd issue. When I do these kind of lines, or maybe because I've done it over a long time, I tend to go fast. I move very fast when I'm drawing these kind of lines, and they are steadier and they are more evenly spaced when I'm fast. But when I become slow, or I become, slower than I normally am, they don't get uniform. They start to get less uniform.
Yeah, so speed is actually very subjective. If you are comfortable making them fast, you can make them fast. As long as you have good control over where it starts and where it ends, it's great. But if in say the case of a brick, if I were to just do this, there is also this habit of quickly making these lines where you're not particularly concerned whether the lines are within that space or not. And with pen illustration, this often is perfectly okay. You don't need to have lines which fit in within a given box, because a dynamic texture like that can also speak volumes about your artwork. Maybe that's what's needed. So it's all very subjective, I think. It depends on your subject matter and how you desire the quality of the illustration to be. These exercises are merely meant for you to be able to control either you want to do it this way or this way. So if you're not able to make uniform lines when you're drawing them slow, you might be able to use these exercises to have that skill built in. But as far as making the artwork is concerned, if you can make uniform lines, and of course, if you can make them within a given, say, border, if need be, then you can make them as fast as you want. Shouldn't be a problem.
Okay.
Okay, so many such exercises exist,
How is
and
this?
develop your own with which you can help get better control over the line. Just to reiterate, control means being able to predict the line. So that means this is like the story when there was a 7-year-old in my class. I was trying to teach them how to draw a lion. He drew exactly what I was trying to tell them to do, but of course, without erasers, without tools. And his lion turned out to be a kitten. And he was very distressed. And he said, "My lion doesn't look like a lion, my lion looks like a kitten." And that just happened because when he wanted to make a line that was large, he did not have the right proportion in mind, and he just made a line which turned out to be smaller than was needed. So it's the prediction, being able to predict and being able to execute your prediction is what I mean by control. So the more you do it, the more your lions will look like lions and not kittens. Now moving on to the quality of line. This exercise we have done in the past, I think. And this is about making quick sketches of anything that you see in front of you. So I think I'll switch to the other pen, the FRI pen. Now in my observation, the entire world is actually made out of just cubes and cylinders. And I just want to demonstrate this by drawing a quick illustration of stacking cylinders. So if you think about it, each of these is a cylinder, one on top of the other. And all I'm going to do is make a proportionate drawing the way I see it of this cylinder, upon cylinder, upon cylinder. So I'm making its constituent cylinder parts. And it doesn't take more than maybe a minute maximum to create a shape like that. When you are making this, you are breaking down what you see as a finished product, you might say, into its components. So you don't have to worry about how the label looks, whether you're getting all the shapes proportionately right or not. You are just creating cylinder upon cylinder, transparent if you want to. And this exercise can help you to get rid of the self-doubt you may have if you were to start drawing this bottle just as a bottle. Okay. Conversely, now I'll ask you, if I were to ask you to draw the bottle, many of you might start from the top and do things like that. So what I'm trying to say is that in doing this, your line quality starts suffering. Whereas when you're doing something like that, you are freely making these lines and your hand moves as your eye sees, and you're not encumbered by perfection or trying to perfectly depict what you are seeing. You are breaking it up anyway. So do you want to try this? Do you have a bottle or any kind of maybe even a perfume bottle with a lid, or if you even have a pen can be a cylinder on top of a cylinder on top of a cylinder. And try drawing its component parts. I can also draw something like that. You can draw an imaginary stack of cylinders. And then you can create a bottle out of that maybe. Are you getting it? No? Okay, let me have it. Okay, I can, 1 second. Yeah, what's wrong with it? No, Shivani, you've not drawn the cylinder as such. You've not drawn, you've drawn exactly what I asked you not to do. How about trying it one more time? Try and draw it as a see-through item. Yeah, Karima looks okay. Yeah, I think so. But can you see all the cylinders through and through as transparent objects?
Yeah. I have this object.
Yes.
That's so simple.
Right.
So that's what I
So
got.
1 second. Let me just pull your frame up. Okay. Yeah, it looks about okay. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
So can you see how you still can make more lines to make it even more, I would say the shape becomes a little more refined.
Yeah.
So continue to do that as well, because you're not trying to make the bottle as much as trying to see what is the exact proportion of the cylinder within or as a component of that bottle.
Okay. Plus the proportion also should be right of the bottle.
Yes, yes, it can be, but if you feel that you can do that over here,
Mm-hmm.
change it right here.
Okay.
You the whatever you are making is right there. So
Okay.
you can make the adjustments right there. Now, in order to create some tonal variation, I'm just going to give you a few texture exercises for which let's make some small squares, now just about an inch or so in height and width. Let's start with just making 4. We've already done straight vertical lines before. This time round, I don't want you to do this controlled line work as much as let's make the lines more organic. So it's okay if they are going a little beyond the box, but try and keep them equidistant. Now this is one shade. In this now, we are going to add lines from half to down. This is going to become our second shade, just using lines. This is a tonal study with lines. And all are still vertical lines. We're not changing, we're not overlapping. They're still vertical, trying at least to be vertical and avoiding any lines overlapping. And then we can do a third, and if you want even a fourth, where there could be some overlaps, but the intention over here is to try and keep the lines still vertical and in between the previous line. So we have 3 shades over here. Now, how do we translate these onto an object like this? When you have a cylindrical object, the best way to use lines other than vertical is to use them in a contour shape of the cylinder itself. So contour line is a line that follows the outer shape of that particular object. Here the outer shape is a curved line. So the contour texture is going to follow that line, and we make parallel lines. If we want to make a tonal variation here, we will start making lines in between. So we start getting a slightly darker section, but those in between lines are shorter than the first lines. Sorry for the reception today. It's just awful. At least I am seeing my own frame looking so pixelated. I don't know if you can see it. And then you can do the third one in between so that it becomes even darker. So the same effect that we had created for the previous cylinder, we create over here, but this time using just parallel lines. Okay, this looks slightly better. Now the next texture we are going to make those slightly curved lines where I'm going to make them short and second row and a third row, and filling up with just these very casually drawn lines, not even really very straight. The less straight your lines are, the more organic your picture looks. So you might see such lines in, oh, all of you should just check out the Asterix and Obelix cartoon comic books, because they've got so much beautiful texture going. And most of the illustrative work, if you just cut out the color, it's all just texture. It's just fantastic. Now with simple logic, we can repeat the same texture any way we want to, and start increasing the density of lines, and that will change the tone automatically. Much of this you can do in one shot. You don't have to do it like this also. You can just, while you are making the first row, you know you're going to make it darker towards the bottom. You can overlap it even at that time. So this would be considered as a light tone, this would be the mid tone, and this would be the dark tone. Now another texture that I really enjoy making is where I change the angle of the lines. So here I'm going to make lines at maybe about 50 degrees, equidistant again. Then from half of the box, I'm going to change that angle and make it a little more upright. You don't need to know whether it's 50 degrees, 40 degrees, 30 degrees, so long as you change the tilt a little bit and continue to make the next row parallel to that angle. And the last one, I'm going to make them fully vertical and add that density.
Aditi, can you say the second line? How did you do it?
The second line, I changed the angle and made it more upright. The first line was all at this angle. The second was at this angle, and the third was more upright.
Okay.
Now for the last box, the most fun but sometimes most frustrating is the squiggles. It's fun because there are no rules. You can just scribble and get away with it. It's frustrating because you have to make sure that you're not making the same shapes again and again. Very often, I've found that trying to get your pen to just go all over the place is quite difficult for a lot of people. And they'll either land up making just going back and forth like that, so you just get loops, or you start getting 8 marks. So everywhere you're just drawing 8s, or you just draw up and down zigzag lines. So it does take a little bit of loosening of the fingers and the wrist to be able to draw what I like to call this as the Brownian motion texture. I have no idea why that part of chemistry is stuck in my head. I'm still amazed with the idea that atoms at their level are constantly moving. It's just ridiculous. Here again, 1, 2, 3. Now, this is just a small sample of textures that you can make. You can invent your own. One very beautiful sample is the stippling. but I'm not going to make you do a whole box of stippling. We're just going to use it in little bits and pieces somewhere over here. Best, I think, to use it in the brick texture, the two brick textures that we have. So we can use the scribble texture in one brick, making it dark again on one side. And yes, my ball pen is the unpredictable kind, so it's giving me a light line as well. Many of you might have a ball pen that if you don't press too hard, you will just get a lightish line. So you can make unfirm lines. And for the last brick, you can just make a few dots. This is very frustrating with a unpredictable ballpoint pen. But still, it's better to make this with a pen than with a pencil. Pencil stippling has driven me nuts. But of course, this is the best with ink.
Can you bring the brick closer?
Yeah. Now the last bit is, of course, foliage. We can't get away without doing foliage. Last week we had a good time doing pretty much the same kind of textures in pencil. And it works almost exactly the same in pen. So the same, make the trees, the same weird shape. Only we cannot make any light and dark lines, but we can just reduce the density of the lines and we're good. Now here I'm going to use two different textures only because they are most effective. The first one is going to be this whole scribbling texture. And I'm going to try and keep it more rounded than making straight lines. Once in a while, there are some straight back and forth lines that just get drawn, but I'm going to avoid that. And as you can see, I've made fairly large shapes. Now, in some places towards the bottom, I'm going to reduce my back and forth movement a little bit and create more density. Usually along the bottom or bottom and one side makes the tree look more realistically three-dimensional. And then in some places, I'm actually going to just make this leaf texture, which is just a texture like that, a line like that, which is repeated back and forth to create clumps of texture. Now, this is how our eye sees trees in a distance. Our brain knows which tree it is, but the eye actually just sees clumps of leaves pretty much like that. So if we draw them, we are successfully creating a similar illusion. Now, if I do this the entire tree, it will just start looking like a child's illustration. So that is why creating this base texture becomes really important. And then you can hide the tree or the leaf texture within all those pen lines. And the brain will put two and two together and we should be good. The other thing that is often done or required in landscapes is clouds. And for this, my go-to texture is again just lines which are drawn in a particular area to indicate clouds. I'm making a tree line like this, just a very wobbly line, which I'm going to just shade with lines at an angle. And because this is the same item, I'm going to continue the angle on the other side as well, but there's no such need. You can choose to do whatever you want. Another note also, in case I've not said this before, is that you can mix and match any of these textures. So if I've made lines and if I want this to look like trees, I can go over some sections with the scribble texture also. There's no rule that says you can't. Now, if I want to draw a cloud here, I'm just going to draw the outline of a cloud with broken lines and create almost like this Van Gogh-esque texture with a few lines here and there indicating what is happening in the sky. Now for this, you might need a little bit of practice and of course a very confident line. Now, one last bit about the line, because we can't, this is like a cheat for the wispy line that we did with pencil. The wispy line, like I had mentioned, does not have a defined beginning. It's got some definition in the middle somewhere, and then again an indefinite end. The equivalent of a wispy line in pen can be a line that starts dotted, becomes a line, and then ends dotted. So this is just a equivalent line to the wispy line. And how this can come handy is, say we are drawing a flower. I'm going to draw it in pencil as well as in pen. So we can compare whether the effect is pretty much the same. In pencil, we could probably create a line that goes outward so that we get the sense of dark and light, and the line is just let go of. If we were to draw this in pen, if some pens allow you to end without a definite stop, that's great. But otherwise, you can just trail it with a few lines and then finally with maybe just a dot, and just maybe 2 or 3. Do not overdo it, because then it starts looking like a pattern. I'll just bring it closer a little bit. Hopefully that detail will be a little more visible. So this is just this is something that you can also do for yourself. When you find that there is a particular quality to a line in another medium which you would like to replicate in pen, you can do all sorts of manipulations and say, okay, does this equate what I want it to be? And you can use it wherever you need it. Like, for example, if you want to create a very light line, like we want for flowers, do not draw a line like you would draw over here. If you draw a flower with lines like that, it is going to look more graphic. Whereas if you draw them as broken lines, they do the job of looking very wispy and your job is done. So all the soft edges are easily created and it's still working with pen. All right. Now this is again a good line quality. So let me just go over everything that we've covered so far so that I can give you something to practice through the week. We are trying to build on line control and through that also achieve good quality of line, a good confident line. These are the exercises with which you can build good quality, good control over the line, geometric shapes. That way you can predict whether or not your line comes from one end to the other, whether you can stop in time, whether you're stopping short, all of that. Some small textured illustrations using doodle textures, some large illustrations like mandala art, where you will draw parallel lines that will help you to develop control also. And then we've got textures, interesting textures for like bricks or baskets or rock masonry. All these are meant to help control. There's one thing that I forgot, which I'll quickly share with you, but I only want to make, is lettering. Lettering is a very good way of developing control and a confident line. Just make letters which are big. So make big titles, make block letters like these, where you have to deliberately go through an area where you have to assess spaces and say, okay, now I'm going to stop over here, then I'm going to go up and make the line parallel to the previous line, things like that. So lettering is a very good task also for line control. Now here, the exercise is stacking cylinders and cubes and drawing objects by simplifying their components. This is for line quality. This will help you develop a very confident line because you're not required to draw the object for the object as much as its components. And this is the task that you can also take up every day. Like I suggested, you can draw some object that you own or use and start documenting it, maybe writing a little bit about it if you want. And that will help you do something for maybe 10 minutes, not more than that, 10 minutes every day. That should be easy enough. So keep a diary handy. And if you want to make it even more casual, use a diary from a previous year which has got lines on it. So you don't even have to worry about the blank page. That also can sometimes be a little daunting. By your bedside, first thing in the morning or last thing at night, whenever you can, just 10 minutes is good enough. Then we made this texture bank, and I would encourage you to look in at pictures of etchings from historic books or something. You could just do a Pinterest search on etchings. That's ETCH. In the past, when books were published with illustration, etching was the only way that they could illustrate. It used to be a metal copper plate onto which the drawing would be etched, and then that was used to print, which were called plates also. And those plates were then inserted in the back of the book or right in the middle of the book when it was being bound. So look for some etchings. In etchings, you will find that they will have a lot of textures or use of textures. Mostly it's line texture, but some places you might also come across these. And of course, old comic books, black and white comics, which are the other ones? The only ones that I really think had a lot of textures were asterisks and obelisks. I don't know so much if Tintin did. Tintin had a much more simplified illustration. Um, and maybe Calvin and Hobbes, because Calvin and Hobbes also was done mostly with the black and white, but also all of these were done in ink. So there will be a variation in line. That's a completely different medium from the pen that we are doing, but it'll give you some ideas. I guess that's it. Are there any questions? Do you have any questions, doubts, any comments?
When we are using this ball pen, in between suddenly there's a flow of ink, a blob of ink.
Yeah.
Let it be that way. I mean, it's a
Yep.
personal preference.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
it disappears also in between, maybe, especially when I was trying to draw a big circle. Suddenly it stops. So we go there. Should
It
we
does.
go over that or just leave it
So
as this?
see, there are ways that you find around it. This is just the tool that it's like the most modest tool that you can get. You're probably never going to use this to make a formal illustration, but if it is in your hand, you should be quickly able to draw something. That's the exercise. Now, as far as those bobs are concerned, I hear you. I know exactly what you're talking about, and you can see what I've been doing. It's so subtle. I rub that blob away once in a while. I already have some marks over here from, I just do this. It does, I don't even know when I've done it. Keep checking that blob is not going to fall on the paper where I want. If the line doesn't occur, it's not as much damage done as a blob appearing. When the temperature is high, those blobs naturally happen. When the pen is dying, those blobs naturally happen. So those things, if you can work around, it's great. It's a minor issue for
Yeah, I'm happy. I mean, I tried to make this perfume bottle. Can you see?
Yeah, I can. Nice, so nice. But it's still looking like a very nice perfume bottle.
How
Break
is
it
this?
more.
It shouldn't look, is it?
Not necessarily, no. So here they do look like bottles, but they look like more like construction drawings, right? This
Okay.
is how they need to be constructed. The less they look like what they are, but look like the components which built it, then your line quality will be a little less formal.
That's where I keep going wrong. I tried again. This one was, I don't know if you can see it. This was going wonky, but it had the industrial. But then this one I did again and it looks back too. This was my third one. I can't, my mind is not getting this.
Well, one second, let me just check Devashree's. I'll just tell you what you're doing wrong. Yeah, very nice, Devashree. What is your? Yes, nice. Yep, looks like it. Cool.
And this pen.
More lines, but Devashri, you can make even more lines as you're doing it.
Okay.
Yep. Good. Nice.
And how about this?
Yeah, looking good. Very nice. Yep. Yeah, looking nice. So Shivani, one problem is that the bottle that you have taken is actually part of a sphere. It's less cylindrical than spherical. And that's possibly why you're not getting a cylindrical shape. So it's a spherical shape that has been shaved off from two sides so that you get a flattened sphere. But I'm sure you'll find a more cylindrical object to start with, and then you'll start getting this shape. It's not your fault, it's the bottle's fault.
Oh, okay, no problem. I'll try different bottles.
Okay, so I guess that's it. If there are no questions, then I can end the session for today. And next week, we will be starting all our regular stuff. So if you have any suggestions, please feel free to send them. My plan for next week was to do fruit and flower, pencil and watercolor illustrations. But if you have anything else that you'd like to do, please message and start sending in the suggestions so I can
Trees.
plan around.
Aditi, trees.
Trees. All right.
Like big one. Along with its context, like some other things around. Not just a tree I can handle, but if I have to do tree in a landscape, then I get confused. Or
Okay,
like a
okay.
thicket, a thicket with foliage and things. That is what I struggle with a lot.
Okay, so we can do a landscape. Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
everybody. Thank you,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye bye. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Bye.